Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the film biopic Professor Marsden and the Wonder Women. This film is about Professor William Moulton Marsden, who is the creator of Wonder Woman. He is the official person who has made Wonder Woman before it became a comic book series. He also is the creator of the lie detector, and what this film focuses on is not only the life of Professor Marsden and his work with the lie detector and him being a professor at a university and him creating Wonder Woman, it's also about his wife, Elizabeth, and a former student slash mistress that came into both his life and his wife's life, and kind of how his studies in psychology and his intrigue of trying to get people to be as honest as possible and his kind of never resisting urge to kind of fully tell somebody how he felt about them. It's kind of about all these things. It's about all these things that the lie detector is kind of able to convince you to say and feel about how you really feel about something. And that's kind of how his marriage became really unusual and how his wife and this girl and himself kind of got themselves in this very weird social situation where the three of them are kind of in love with each other. It is a marriage still, and obviously, this girl feels just as strongly about them as they do about her. And so this film really is not only about how Wonder Woman got made and kind of the inspirations that Professor Marsden himself faced and how he felt about things, but it really is also about this marriage between his wife and this mistress girl and kind of how the three of them, in a way, with their experiences, their very unusual experiences, definitely came up with this Wonder Woman character and came up with the controversy behind her and how DC kind of turned Wonder Woman into more of a Justice League kind of character, while Marsden originally made her more of a strong, independent woman that definitely was into some very dirty things that I'm sure DC in today's world would never allow the Wonder Woman character to go into. So, very unique and intriguing movie. So, let's go over some positives and negatives about this movie because I did like this movie quite a bit. For my positives and negatives of Professor Marsden, the Wonder Woman, the three lead performances Luke Evans, who plays Professor Marsden, Rebecca Hall, who plays the wife Elizabeth, and I only seen this actress in one other film outside of this one, as far as I know. I'm going to have it in the description down below if I'm completely wrong on this one. It's like Margaret Heathcott or Maggie Heathcott or something like that. The three of them, like I said, it is down in the below in the description. If I do completely mess up on her name, I apologize. I'm pretty sure Heathcott is her last name, though. And like I said, once again, it is in the description down below if you don't believe me. So, the three lead performances really are strong in this movie. They have tons of screen chemistry. They really work well together on screen with each other. You really do get the impression that Marsden is in love with both the wife and this girl, and just kind of how intriguing this all is to see the three of them on screen together and kind of formation their life as they know it on the screen as the three of them come together. So very interesting, very strong performances from all three people: Luke Evans, Rebecca Hall, and the girl I keep mispronouncing her name on. But like I said, her name is in the description down below for those who are wondering. It's the one with the last name of Heathcott, I believe. And overall, there was some really interesting information on Wonder Woman's creation, on how Marsden kind of had this idea, kind of ran with it, was intrigued by mythology, kind of added his own little unique take, had reasonings behind her bracelets and just her outfit overall. So just really interesting as to how he came up with this whole Wonder Woman character. I also like the 30s and 40s looks of the sets because most of the film, I think, is taking place in the 30s and 40s and kind of the rise of the comic book genre and the rise of just comic books in general. They do briefly go over kind of how Superman was this huge success, and I think they briefly cover, too, very, very briefly for this one, briefly cover. Um, Kind of the success of Batman and how Wonder Woman kind of fit in with these two characters at the time of DC kind of rising to fame with their comics. I also like the use of the lie detector in this movie. Very unique use of kind of getting people to be honest, how they were able to figure out how people were being or are able to be even more honest and the lie detector was able to detect, certain lies that they're telling you as you're asking them questions, very personal questions at that. So I like how the use of the lie detector kind of brought out the brutally honest side of Marsden and his wife and this girl. So I really like the use of the lie detector, and it actually does make its way into his Wonder Woman comics, which I also thought was interesting. They also explore Professor Marston's female psychology theories. He came up with something called the discs theory, which is a way of women to kind of feel more dominant over man, be able to feel more superior over others. And it's really interesting how the disc theory kind of comes into play with the movie, kind of how it made Marsden fall when it came to him writing books. But at the same time, that when it came to his psychology lessons, he was able to convince people of his theories, and he was able to incorporate it into the Wonder Woman comics, and had to fight with DC as to how his vision of Wonder Woman was a more erotic, more exotic as well. While DC wanted just a cool superhero to add to the mix, one to add to their Justice League, one to stand alongside with Superman and Batman and all their comics and stuff like that. So I like how Marsden's psychology theories definitely play a big part in this story as well. There's also tons of hints and foreshadows of the Wonder Woman character overall. There's even a scene where the young mistress girl is off at the university watching this play randomly without people knowing that she's watching it. And they even hint that the character's name is Diana, and it's kind of in this place that seems to be like Paradise Island from the Wonder Woman comics. Definitely a hint and a foreshadowing that the character of Wonder Woman is about to be made within the story. There's even a scene where she has, but it's not a spoiler because it's literally on one of the posters of the movie, where she's wearing an outfit that very much feels like the Wonder Woman character. So just tons of hints and foreshadows as to the things that definitely lead up to the creation of Wonder Woman in this timeline of the film. But for my negatives of Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman, I think the overall narrative structure is very weak. They go from present day back to the past, back to present day, back to the past. There's even scenes where certain lines of dialogue aren't completed until that present day word of mouth and part of the dialogue fits into the overall monologue. So let's say Marsden was talking about a psychology theory in the past during like the 30s, and then they show a more present day kind of Wonder Woman controversy. And when I say present day, I mean more like the 40s of this time period of the movie where the Wonder Woman comics are starting to stir controversy and things like that. So they go between two time periods a lot, and like I said, certain scenes where he's explaining a theory and he's explaining a theory in a later time, and the two clips are mixed together. And like I said, the dialogue is kind of completed within these two being meshed together, and it just felt very weird. There's a lot of scenes that definitely play out like this too, which I didn't like. So overall, I thought the overall narrative structure just felt very weak in the sense that they went from past, present, past, present, past, present, past, present. And there's scenes where it's just like you can't go within seconds length of time without them going past, present, past, present. So I thought that aspect of the story felt very weak. I also thought some of the editing in this film felt very sloppy. Just certain scenes just kind of randomly feel pieced together. You definitely still get the impression of what's going on in some of these scenes, but some of these scenes are just like, okay, Rebecca Hall's off doing this, Luke Evans is doing this, the mistress girl's doing this. You know what's going on, you know what kind of all these characters are up to for certain scenes, but some of the scenes just feel randomly slopped together, and it just doesn't feel like a cohesive whole by the end of the movie. I also thought towards the end of the film feels very overlong. It just feels like it's going on longer than it should. And by the end, towards the end, I was kind of just done with it. Like it was one of those things where I felt like certain scenes just kind of overstayed their welcome. They made all their points, and the film just kind of doesn't know where to go by the time the film's over with. So I thought towards the end, it felt a little overlong to me. There was also some unclear details about some of the characters, why Professor Marsden was obsessed with planes, kind of how this plane toy was significant to him, and kind of how when they're out and about in one scene, he's obsessed with these planes, and they never go over why he likes these kind of things. They never go over like a childhood memory that kind of helps him feel better, or they never really go over any kind of detail like that for some of these things. So I thought some of the details could have felt more clear in certain moments. But overall, I'm going to give Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman an 8.5 out of 10. I highly recommend this film. I think it's good. If you want to know more about how the Wonder Woman character was created, I think it's definitely a unique film to watch. Um, Probably not a biopic I could watch multiple times again, like certain films like Rudy or anything like that. But I do really enjoy this film. I do highly recommend it for those who are intrigued by kind of what this film takes on, not only with the Wonder Woman character, but the whole uniqueness and weirdness of Marsden's marriage and things like that. So 8.5 out of 10. Highly recommend the movie. Be sure to check out Professor Marsden and the Wonder Woman.